The moment I met him, I knew he was completely wrong for me. But he was 6'2", and he had his own job, and he had his own place, and he wore a nice watch. And I was 24, and I didn't realize that that wasn't enough to qualify someone as boyfriend material. So after a few months of dating, I knew I wanted to end things. I was so bored. It was like biting into a dry, stale saltine cracker for every meal of the day. But I just kept thinking, how do I break up with someone for being boring? Now, it's important to note that I am not a religious person, but I was raised as a secular Jew, and I was always taught to pray in times of distress. But I had very high doubts that my thoughts were ever reaching any kind of supernatural force until this date. This fateful date took place on a summer afternoon and started with a walk along the tree-lined paths of the National Mall. Even though I could see that imaginary clock ticking down the seconds until the end of our relationship, I was still putting in effort. So I brought up conversation topics that I thought were interesting, like, hey, how about this beautiful historic architecture surrounding us? Wow, he said, look at the squirrels. Oh my God. Then he turns and he gestures to the nearby Capitol building and he starts talking about politics. It's also important to note that this is summer of 2016, so the world has just realized that Donald Trump will actually be running against Hillary Clinton in the presidential election. I hope this country doesn't get ruined by a murderous woman, that Hillary Clinton. Yeah, I would have, but I was in complete and utter shock. So instead, I stood there and I froze because all of my strength was going into the fact of accepting that I had already had sex with this person. So I kept walking, and I'm listening to all his pro-Trump comments, and I'm planning now frantically my fastest exit strategy. So I say, hey, let's go into the nearest public building, which just happens to be the Natural History Museum. So we walk in, and he's very quiet, and I'm still assuming that it's because he's overwhelmed by the beauty and the grandeur of everything. And I get some space from him by bouncing around to the different displays, and I'm reading the information and observing the preserved specimens. And I notice that he hasn't read anything, not one thing, and I think, well, maybe he doesn't like to read. Or maybe he doesn't read well. So I suggest, hey, let's move to the next exhibit. There's more visual content in the evolutionary exhibit. And it's really cool because there's like this cave and this drumming music playing, and there's these pictures of Homo sapiens and Neanderthals leading you into this massive space where you walk in and you find all of these ancient human artifacts. And I say, wow, this is amazing. And I notice that his hands are now clenched and his brow is furrowed, and he's now looking like somewhat of a modern-day Neanderthal himself. Do you actually believe in all of this stuff? Oh my God. Do you mean science? There's no way we came from monkeys. Yeah, no, scientists don't suggest that either. There's no proof for any of their theories. Well, actually, it's like on every wall of this museum. So the date and the relationship ended in that exact moment. And he left me on the stairs outside the museum because he said he could never date anyone like me. So he walked away feeling justified in his beliefs, and I walked away without any lingering Jewish guilt because I didn't have to break up with him. And I'm just so thankful because my prayer was miraculously answered. So now I know God is real, and she has an impeccable sense of humor. Thank you.
Fuck Donald Trump. Yeah, nigga, fuck Donald Trump. Yeah, yeah.